The lightweight division in the UFC has had its ups and downs, from literally being expelled out of the UFC for a couple years where they literally had no fights. Yes, that actually happens. They had no title fights for 4 years. It's crazy. And it's also been the UFC's most popular division. So yeah, it's been through a lot. But something wholly unique is potentially on the verge of happening this weekend. Over that history going back to Pulver, Penn, on through to Khabib, Oliveira, Islam, no champion at 155 pounds has ever defended their belt more than 3 times. Now, Islam Makhachev has an opportunity to break that title defense record and in the process potentially earn status as the greatest lightweight of all time. I'm Jason from MMA On Point. A massive shout out to our Hall of Famers for everything they do to help this channel. Will Islam Makhachev be the greatest lightweight if he wins on Saturday?
What's up, fight fans? It's UFC 311 Fight Week. Islam Makhachev is defending his title against Arman Tsarukyan, and, you know, being partnered with DraftKings, we've got you covered. All new customers, if you bet just $5 on anything, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. And you can stay in on the action and use that $200 on some DraftKings same game parlays. And you can get a shot at an even bigger payout. Combine multiple bets together from the same fight, including number of rounds or method of victory. And the more bets you combine, the more you can win. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the action with DraftKings Daily Fantasy, and you can win yourself some cash prizes as well. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers use the code ONPOINT, bet just $5, and you can get yourself $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ONPOINT only at DraftKings. The crown is yours.
So first off, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. What if Arman wins, right? What does this all say about him? It's a massive accomplishment without a doubt, and it's totally possible. This video is not saying Islam will win. I'm just talking about what it means if Islam does. If he can knock Islam off the perch, that's a huge, huge deal. But I am a firm believer in the idea that the lightweight GOAT, or any GOAT in any division, they really have to be the best fighter, and they have to demonstrate that for a long time. It has nothing to do with popularity or any of that. It's multiple defenses and looking really good in the process, right? So for Arman, I don't think he could really enter in that discussion with a single title win. It would be very significant, but, you know, early. Of course, Arman will be on his way to building up that legacy for himself. So really good things for Arman here as well. If Islam can do what he is trying to this weekend, then yeah, 3 or more title defenses puts him in that GOAT discussion for lightweight. So let's go ahead and break down the historical significance of these 3 defenses and why it actually matters. Before Islam, there had only been 4 champions to ever get 3 title defenses. Number 1 was BJ Penn, the first to ever do it. And for that reason, some fans will still hold him up as the greatest because he set the standard, and he did look flawless at the time. Then you sprinkle on top of that what he did when he went up a weight class and won at 170 against Matt Hughes when he was literally the best fighter on the planet. 5 title defenses was the record in any major organization in any weight class, and Hughes was the only 5 defense tier champion left after Tito had just lost his belt. Not to mention Hughes never had those accusations of ducking anybody like Tito did. Also keep in mind Matt Hughes would hand GSP his first loss as well, only a few months after losing to BJ and go on another title run, which puts him into a unique category. He was one of the only people to earn belts in 2 different weight classes back then. The second person to achieve 3 title defenses was the very next champion who would dethrone BJ Penn, Frankie Edgar. He would beat BJ in the rematch as well, tie Gray Maynard. Wait, is a tie even a defense? Well, yeah, technically it is because he successfully defended the belt from being taken away from him. So yeah, it's a caveat for sure, but it is officially recorded as a defense. And then he would get a 3rd defense by beating Maynard to resolve the draw. And again, the division was on a roll at this time, as the very next person to win the title by beating Frankie Edgar would also be the 3rd person to achieve 3 defenses, and that was former WEC champion Benson Henderson. He would narrowly edge out Frankie Edgar on the scorecards in really both their fights, and then he would get 2 more defenses over Scrap Pack members like Nate Diaz and Gilbert Melendez. This was 2013. We wouldn't see anybody else match this record for a long time. Pettis would take out Benson, get a single defense himself before losing to RDA, which was a huge upset at the time. RDA would take out Cerrone before then losing to Alvarez, and Alvarez would immediately lose to Conor McGregor. This pretty much fucked up the whole division for several years because Conor went off to box and he didn't ever really come back to the point he was stripped of the title. He only came back after that happened. happens. Meanwhile, the Khabib-Ferguson failed cancellation tour was fully underway as Ferguson was interim champ during this whole fiasco, and because he had a freak injury right before he was supposed to fight Khabib for the undisputed crown, he was also stripped of his interim title on the same night Conor was stripped, in one of the most ridiculously insane, crazy weeks the sport's ever seen. Literally ever. And that meant Khabib ended up getting the title off of number 11 ranked Al Iaquinta, who by the way was not even eligible to win the title that night due to his ranking being outside of the top 10. Only Khabib was even able to be champion that night. Like I said, Conor just destroyed that division for a while. And that is about as condensed as I can possibly put that story. So much happened in that time. And yeah, so because that whole Dali dumpster fire situation, Khabib and Conor would square off memorably breaking the MMA sales record with 2.8 million pay-per-view buys. Then Khabib would take out fan favorites Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje to earn that coveted 3 defenses for the first time it had been done since 2013. And because of both how easy he made this all look and by being undefeated and retiring without losing the belt, yeah, he by far is held up as the gold standard for those 3 defenses as the lightweight division's pretty much unanimous GOAT. And I personally have to agree with that. He only officially lost 2 rounds in his entire UFC run. The 3rd round against McGregor and the 1st against Gaethje. That's it, guys. Even the famous Gleason-Tebow fight where Rogan and Goldberg on commentary thought he lost, it was 30-27s across the board. And that's where Islam comes in. He took out Oliveira at the height of Charles's reign after 1 or 2 defenses if you count the Gaethje fight, which he missed weight there, so you can't officially count it. But after Oliveira, Islam beat Volkanovski twice, who was the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter at the time, and most recently Dustin Poirier, which puts him at that 3 title defenses he currently has. If he wins this weekend, why not just put Islam at number 1? That will break the record. Will he be the greatest of all time at lightweight? Well, there are a few reasons people are reticent to give him that honor if he can do that. The first being that unlike Khabib, who had pretty much a perfect record, Islam on the other hand did get KO'd by Adriano Martins in the UFC. When was that? Well, oh yeah, it's already a decade since that happened. Is that even relevant now? He hasn't lost since then, but again, for a lot of people, the problem is you're comparing it to pretty much a perfect record with Khabib, and that's kind of the issue. How do you even beat a perfect record? Then there has to be a discussion about the quality of defenses. Khabib beat Poirier, for instance, when you could argue Poirier was at the height of his prime. Dude just beat Holloway in a 5-round war when nobody was even touching Holloway, and it got Dustin interim title honors. That was already 6 years ago. So yeah, both Khabib and Islam too did beat Poirier, but for Islam, it was less than a year ago when Poirier was openly talking about retirement before and after the fight. But to play the other side of that, what does any of that mean? The way Poirier took out Benoit Saint-Denis showed he definitely was in top form, and the fight with Islam was one of the best title fights of the year. So hopefully in this, you get to see a little bit of both sides of this debate here. The best you can really do is split hairs if you are an Islam detractor. But moving back a bit into his first title defense, it was pretty controversial against Alexander Volkanovski. Islam looked flawless in their rematch with a quick KO, and there are some caveats to that, and let's be honest, he took the fight last minute, but the first fight was much different. It was incredibly competitive with both having arguments to say they won it, but because of the fact that Volkanovski dropped Islam late in the 5th as Volk was seemingly surging ahead and Islam seemed to be fading, yeah, that meant a lot of people thought Volk won that first fight. Volkanovski was very popular as a star worldwide, especially even in the aftermath of this, in large part due to what he did in this fight, while also doing it in front of his home crowd. Yeah, that's how a lot of the fan base became divided on this fight. Add in the illegal IV accusations from Dan Hooker, and you got a full-blown controversy on your hands.
Hooker is maintaining that he has been told by a medical professional, in this case a nurse, that the nurse administered an IV to Islam after the weigh-ins and prior to the fight.
Of course, the other side of that is Islam refutes any of those claims and himself claims the rehydration process affected him especially adversely because they fought on American time in Australia, which was really early. Meanwhile, Volk was coming up a weight class from 145 and obviously didn't have to cut nearly as much. So according to Islam, the time difference simply affected him way more. Either way you feel about any of these fights, it's largely why breaking the record could sway you towards a belief belief that Islam will now be the greatest lightweight ever, or perhaps you won't be convinced if he manages to do that on Saturday night. My personal opinion boils down to that classic idiom. Let's just see how the fight plays out, right? A crazy good performance speaks louder than anything else, and aside from any lightweight GOAT claims, the record is significant enough of an honor on its own, so it's a really huge deal. But if you're really gonna hammer my opinion down on it, I would cautiously say that maybe it's not this one and just slightly early to give that greatest lightweight ever status. But if Makhachev can do well enough here, and who knows, let's say the 5th title defense is also a win over Oliveira, or maybe even Topuria, who's been talking about moving up, then perhaps it simply becomes too undeniable. Khabib's run was just so unchallenged that maybe it'll just take that little extra bit more, and if Islam then makes it to 6 title defenses, dude, forget about it. Yeah, he's the lightweight GOAT. There would have to be a crazy controversy for that to not be true. He's already the #1 pound for pound. And of course, that will put him in the greatest ever discussion at that point. That's why I'm crazy hyped about the fight this weekend and why I think it's so important. And I love that shit.
Because they make me feel good!
Alright, that's it for me, guys. A big shout out to our Hall of Famers again. If you like videos like this, you like this channel, you want to support, that's the best way to support this channel. And yeah, we'll head on out, like and subscribe. Peace.